Thank you for tuning in today to I Retire for Him, the voice and resource of the Retirement Reformation, online at retirementreformation.org. Boy, Happy New Year, and welcome to the I Retire for Him podcast. As you listen to what we have today, and this is a very different opening because it's the last podcast of 2024 for I Retire for Him, the voice and resource of the Retirement Reformation, online at retirementreformation.org. We want to just get your attention. Not because we want to ask you for money, but if you've got some you need to give away, of course we'd love you to give us some money, but because we want you to take a moment and hear God's voice, because 2025 is going to be a big year for you. And we want each one of you to experience the most God has for you in your retirement years. So make sure you stay tuned to every one of the podcasts we have coming your way in 2025. You know, you've lived with a high level of intentionality over the past month, preparing for Christmas by planning on doing something to impact the life of another. And then you're preparing for tomorrow night as we ring in 2025. We're learning to live by the saying, not everyone can do the same thing, but everyone can do something. So what does that look like for you in 2025? Bruce and I are going to look at several resources and ideas that can help lead you to exactly what God intends for you to do with your life in 2025 and how it's going to impact others in the new year. Bruce, are you going to have a big party tomorrow night up there in Colorado Springs?
No, I don't think we will, Jim. I think it'll be a quiet time of reflection. And so many across the country will get drunk, will just be crazy as they celebrate the new year. And over the centuries, that has been a model of in all different cultures in all different ways.
A model or a disaster? Yeah, get drunk and celebrate because
a model of disaster is better.
Nothing ever goes wrong when you get drunk and have a party. Nothing can ever happen bad. Bruce, it's amazing though. 2024 is behind us, and New Year's comes in 2 days. Literally, we start celebrating tomorrow night. 2024 has been a hard one for many of us, for you, for me, for our families. Will you be glad to say goodbye to 24 or sad to say goodbye to 24?
I'll be reflective about 2024 and instead of focusing on all the challenges, and there were many, or even some of the joyous solutions, of which there were also many, but to really reflect and to ask the question, what have I learned in 2024? How have I grown in 2024? What is it that God was teaching me during the challenging events and the wonderful solutions? What have I learned from my friends? What have I learned from you? What have I learned from many other friends in places that God has put me that I didn't expect to be? And so to be able to reflect and say, here's what I learned, and then to really realize how much more yet I have to learn, and to use that as the basis for what 2025 is going to bring.
Wait a minute. You're 83. You still got more things to learn? What do you mean?
Well, Jim, as you well know, that if you stop learning, you're really dead. And so the older that I get, the more that I realize of what it is that I do not know. And often when a circumstance comes up, and because I'm in that time of life when in fact we're bringing advice to others upon occasion, and we're asked for our advice upon occasion, that I'm often surprised at the advice that comes out of my mouth, because they say, "Oh, that was really good. I didn't. I wouldn't have thought of that." Well, you know who it is that is speaking through us when that happens. And to be willing to be open and transparent about those conversations. And so as I come into the new year, what have I learned? What don't I know? And what can I on purpose lay out to help me to understand and learn more about whatever the topics are that they are. It could be, but mostly it's about what I can learn about others and about how I can be of help to them.
Is there anything off limits in Bruce Bruinsma life that, God, I really want to learn and I'm willing to learn in all these areas, but can I not learn in this area? I mean, do you ever say, God, okay, you got free reign over here, but this one's a little off limits? You ever have one like that?
Well, we learn the most from the most dramatic experiences that we have. I'd like to say that we learn really well from the positive things that happen. But I know I was just reading in a book recently where it was saying that it takes 5 positive experiences to overcome 1 negative. And I think it might be more than 5, but a number. And so when those negative experiences come up, that's when real learning takes place. And now you can overlay that with 5 positive experiences that then help you to be able to get your hands around what it is that you are to learn from that negative experience. Instead of wallowing in it, being a victim of it, in fact, you have that opportunity to be able to say, okay, what is there that now I can learn and reapply God's wisdom as a result of this? It's a little complicated, but I think life is a little complicated.
Well, and a lot of people listen, but a lot of people listening, Bruce, are like, okay, listen, I know you're saying I should do something. And I think Jim thinks it should be, something to do with your neighbor, which is everybody but you. But a lot of us get stuck in a rut. I don't know about you, Bruce, but sometimes I get stuck in a rut. Like after dinner, I like to have a little dessert. That's a little rut. After lunchtime, I like to take a 20-minute nap and then have a Mountain Dew. That's kind of a rut. And I like to watch TV a lot of nights for an hour or so. I love to read. Those are ruts. But why should we if I'm retired, I'm kind of set in my ways a little bit, right? Why should I consider doing anything new? Why should I consider doing anything new?
Well, what we've learned, and we've talked about that at some in our podcast, but the more that we focus just on ourselves, the more lonely we will become, and the more grumpy we will become.
Oh, grumpy.
Grumpy. It's a very it's a highly technical term that often is misunderstood, but I think perhaps our audience will get grumpy. And so in order to avoid grumpy, there's a number of things that we can do. All of them are outward facing rather than we're inward facing. And so if I can make a new commitment for 2025 is to find more outward facing opportunities that will then give me an opportunity to learn, to share, to find meaning and purpose, and get rid of the grumpies. The degree to which I continue to look at myself and feel sorry for myself, my world is going to shrink. And so to make 2025 an area of growth in what areas? Spiritual growth. Well, how can I do that? Well, I need to get back. It's a little more Bible reading there and understanding. So spiritually, relationally, what friends have dropped away that I can reach out to and be able to reestablish a past relationship and a new one that goes from there. Financially, maybe I can do a better job of managing my resources that God has given to me and setting up my estate and what's going to happen when I die and getting that all figured out, looking forward and out. And then finally, emotionally, how can I grow emotionally? The emotional barriers that we have, the emotional boundaries that we put on ourselves are one of the key contributing factors to grumpiness and loneliness. And so as I can take those 4 areas and say, what can I do proactively? What help is available to me? And how can I learn myself and take steps forward? How can I make sure that my kids understand the past that they came from? How can I help my kids understand the future that I pray for them and any arrangements that I've made to be of assistance to them? But all of these things are things that will take us out of ourselves into 2025 that we can learn, we can grow, and we can make a difference for us, for our family, and for our neighbors.
Oh, so well said. And something we should all be working on. Just, Lord, what do you want to work on? 2025. I love what Martha's dad said to me about a month before he died was, Jim, I'm not done learning. I haven't gotten there. And I'm still learning more about the Lord every day. And I still, that rings in my head, and he's been gone almost 2 years already. Gone, he's not gone. He's with the Lord. I'm going to go to see him one day. But Bruce, it's such an encouragement to know that there is still stuff for us to do. We don't need to be stuck in a rut. And as retirees, God's got all kinds of stuff he could unleash in our lives if we would just be willing. We're going to talk about that more with Derek Carter in this next segment as we talk about the focus on the family emphasis in a certain departments on wraparound grandparenting as part of a coalition that Bruce has been building. And then as we finish up today's podcast, we're really going to go into some very specific things in 2025 that we as retirees can really make sure we're getting involved in, not only make a difference in our life, but in the lives of those we hang out with and live next door all year long. You're listening to I Retire For Him. We'll be right back.
Recreating Retirement is an interactive small group study helping you to move from nothing to what's next. You can join us on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. East Coast time on Facebook Live. Our goal for this study is to provide a group setting for interaction and new ideas while leading you through a first step in your journey from retirement to reformation. Here's the big idea. During the next 5 years, 5,000 small groups will experience this journey of discovery in churches and faith-based organizations across the country. Is your church a place where recreating retirement needs to be planted? Join us online to experience the study or prepare to lead a small group at your church or ministry. Email us at contactus@retirementreformation.org or go to our website at retirementreformation.org. That's retirementreformation.org.
Hey, welcome back to I Retire For Him. As we do in every second segment of every show, we always bring in a special guest. But Bruce, we're on like a topic. We've been focusing the last two podcasts and now today's podcast and our middle segments on wraparound grandparenting. Who do you have for us today that's going to bring a different slant to that, Bruce?
I've got a special guest for us today. Derek Carter was with us in our Legacy of Love wraparound grandparenting retreat kind of that we had, cohort meeting here a couple of weeks ago. And his contributions were really critical to both our understanding and to being able to look out what's ahead. One of the reasons is because he has an unusual role. He is with Focus on the Family. And in Focus on the Family, his area of responsibility is all of the issues around fostering and related areas. So Derek, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. How did God lead you into that position at Focus a number of years ago?
Well, it's actually thank you for having me today. I love to talk about this topic. So it's interesting because, long story short, when I got married and my wife and I have known each other since third grade. So when we got married, I told her she had been a foster parent as a single lady at 20. And I told her, that's wonderful for you, but that's not going to be our story. So I kind of put it on the back burner, but God, through a number of events, brought that back to my heart, and just started to soften my heart towards what that might look like for our family, especially when you see the need of so many children and what you and your family can offer to just welcome a child in your home. So all that to say, my background is 26 years in music ministry and church ministry. And as always happens when you do church ministry, they give you, here's your main thing you're going to do, but here's the other thing you're going to do. And so the other thing was to start a foster care and adoption ministry at our church. And
awesome.
Really, yeah. It was a lot of trepidation at the beginning. Just what do we do? How do we start this? What does that even look like? And so we gathered a team of people to help me with it. And actually what happened is that ministry over a course of almost 10 years kind of did this with music. And so it turned out to be that I said, hey, this is a passion I want to continue to develop and continue to be able to talk to people about. And so just started actually looking for what was out there and saw this position for Focus on the Family. And obviously the reputation of Focus on the Family is a trusted resource. And so Dr. Ford and I, Dr. Sharon Ford, she's the director, we just have a great time together just being able to share on things just like this about this foster care and adoption and what that journey looks like, because it looks different for everybody.
But it's super easy though, right? Derek, being an adopted parent, like that's a cakewalk. It's super easy. There's no challenges.
Oh. It's so easy. Yes. Being a foster parent. I wish that were the story.
You and your wife have adopted how many?
4 of our 6 kids are adopted out of foster care. And so we actually did the first, so we have two bio kids and adopted in the middle, and we were good with that. And then when we started this ministry of church ministry, we'd actually decided to do something, we really need to show the church that we can do this, so we started having one kid, a place for one kid to come in. Well, that one kid stayed, and the next kid stayed, and the next kid stayed. So no, I wish I could say it was easy. I wish I could say that fostering was a cakewalk, but we actually need a lot. There's a community of people that it takes to do this.
And talk about that community a little bit. Talk about 2 things, if you would. Number one, about what that community of support looks like, what that would mean, because our audience of seniors, we're encouraging them to use the unique gifts that they have to be part of a group. And then secondly, talk about what does a support group look like that would really be helpful, and that's something that seniors could do.
Sure. So first in the larger picture of community, I think it's a really important, first of all, that you're called, not everybody is called to be a foster parent. So when I start talking, usually people go, oh, he wants me to be a foster parent, and then they tune it out. But that's not really where we come from, because not everybody is called to be a foster parent. However, just as we've said, everybody can do something. So the larger community, for me, looked like my church community. So, going to church and knowing that people were going to be welcoming. These children come from trauma. So being understanding that they're not the troubled children, they just come from a different background, a different history. Not treating them differently as those kids, treating them as one of the family, treating them as special, and including with that, on the flip side, also not discarding the bio children because of the specialness of the children coming from foster care. So just that community for me was church, having a safe place that I knew my kids were going to be, my kids were going to, the whole family was going to be in a place that was safe to hear about the Word of God, to hear about teaching, but also to have friends, have a place. But then when you get to smaller, then there's the support, and that support looks even more so. It's less just about my Sunday morning touch and my Sunday morning encounter with their Sunday school teacher or whatever it might be. These are the people who actually get involved in your family. And for us, that was, we had one lady who was fantastic. She couldn't, she had fostered and adopted previously, and she knew that the journey that this was on. And rather than say, what can I do to help? She said, here's what I'm going to do to help. Ooh. I'm going to bring a meal every Monday to you. So we will coordinate, and every Monday you will have a meal, and I will do the laundry while I'm there. And so it was like, this is what I'm going to do, because as foster parents, sometimes it's hard to say, oh, when somebody says, well, just let me know if there's something you need, let me know. Sometimes it's hard because people look at you as you've done this really great thing, and you feel like, okay, I have to maintain that, and that I can do this. And they're looking at me like I've done this great thing, and I need to be this great person who's done this great thing. So I'm not going to ask for help, because that says I have a weakness that I don't want them to see in me. So then we had people who would say, okay, you guys need to do some Christmas shopping. So tell me what day next week is going to be your Christmas shopping. And it was a senior couple that would just take the kids in for the evening, and they'd make Christmas cookies, and they'd watch Christmas movies, and they'd do hot chocolate, where we could just say, hey, mom and dad need to go do some Christmas shopping without kids. And so being able to have people who would see a need and say, I'm going to do that need. So having that support system when you need to drop kids off, Most people don't even realize you can't just drop them off with anybody. And so having those people who are certified, who could do overnights and that kind of stuff really makes a difference.
Explain that but these are adopted kids.
Now, when they were children who were in foster care.
All right. Okay, but explain that. You can't just drop them off.
Yes.
Yeah, just explain it, because you can't just drop it off with anybody. Explain why.
So as a child in foster care, there's still a word of the state. And so while you're the temporary, you have the temporary responsibility, there's always a plan going on for what that might look. So you're not, there's still the CPS workers, and the state is still involved. So dropping them off has to look like dropping them off with somebody who's especially overnights, certified. Now, granted, because we had children in Texas, it worked. They had a normalcy clause. So if it was normal for our bio children, then there was some give and take to be able to allow the children in foster care to do the same thing. However, you still had to keep your workers updated. You still had to keep people in the loop, because they're not your child at that point. You're the guardian for them at that point. And so it does make a difference when people see that need, though, just like this couple who said, hey, you need to go Christmas shopping, and I can do it for a few hours. And I love to make cookies. And so, just having those people who would wrap around you in a little deeper way, who might say, hey, I recognize that maybe it could be taking the medical appointments. For us, medical appointments can get kind of overwhelming. So to have somebody who would say, hey, I'm going to meet you at the school. Our kids are homeschooled, but it might be somebody who says, hey, I'll meet you at the school and I'll take Johnny to his appointment today, because I know that your day's busy. Or it could even mean coming to their games. A community of people who would say, hey, like our daughter who played soccer, having people to say, hey, Johnny's got a game at this certain time. We'd love to see people show up to just support Johnny in this. That stuff is simple. That takes an afternoon. You don't have to really do anything except show up and cheer Johnny on. And so, but that speaks volumes to us as the foster parent or adoptive parent, to say there's people who would take time out of their day just to do this.
That lady who did the laundry for you and 6 kids, she's a saint. That's amazing. 6 kids laundry, that's a lot. Bruce, a final question for Derek before we go.
Derek, just give us a brief glimpse into the resources that are available on the Focus on the Family website, where to find the section that deals with these issues, and what kind of support resources are there?
Sure. So on our website, so we've revamped our website. It's waitnomore.org. Wait No More is the program for foster care and adoption with Focus on the Family. Waitnomore.org. And on there's several places. So there's a place for foster families, adoptive families, kinship families. So as you know, in this area, there's a lot of grandparents raising their grandchildren. And so in there's a kinship family support area. And then there's also family allies, which is that wraparound support. So places for, maybe I'm not ready to foster, but maybe maybe there's something I can do. Just needing some ideas, needing some a kickstart to say, what is there out there to do? We have videos, we have downloads, we have articles. Then we also have a suitcase bundle program, which provides a 30-inch rolling duffel bag and a teddy bear and an age-appropriate Bible to children in foster care. So there's lots of ways people can get involved at waitnomore.org. And we just love to see people do something. Everybody can do something. And no, you don't have to think on a grandiose scale, but what's that next step? What's that next thing I can do?
Beautiful, Derek. Thank you. That's so key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Check it out online, waitnomore.org, a ministry of Focus on the Family. Derek Carter, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll be right back with more on I Retire for Him.
Our work on this earth doesn't end when the paycheck stops. God calls us to be faithful for a lifetime. Whether you're looking forward to retirement or you're already there, our all-small group study, Recreating Retirement, will help you understand, engage, and activate what God has for you in this fourth quarter of life. Join Retirement Reformation founder Bruce Bruinsma as you consider your past, strengths, spiritual gifts, and your passions, and how they all come together as the call God has for you in these years. Connect with us on our online community group at facebook.com/Retirement Reformation, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern, or if you'd like to bring Recreating Retirement to your church, email us at contactus@retirementreformation.org. Are you ready to start your life-changing journey today?
Hey, welcome back to I Retire For Him as we finish up this final episode, this final podcast of 2024, talking about 2025. What can we do? We can all do something. Maybe we can't all do the same thing, but what can we do? And really, we just need, it's that living with a level of intentionality. Lord, what do you have for me in 2025? Bruce, do you have something specially planned for you in 2025?
Yeah, I do. In 2025 will be a year where the message of the Retirement Reformation can go viral.
Ooh.
And so for that message to be able to expand, for our audience to be part of a movement, to be able to take the messages, the things that we talk about on the podcast, the things we talk about in our books, thing we talk about in our gatherings of community, and to be able to really understand in a new way and a more powerful way that, in fact, coming together in community and in collaboration, God has designed us to be able to have, as that community, to be able to have impact, kingdom impact. And there's never been a year when, maybe we could say that every year, but there's never been a year where, in fact, there is a greater need for kingdom impact, and that seniors can play a key role in that, whether it be in wraparound grandparenting or all the other kinds of needs and initiatives that exist. Jim, just to remind us as we think about 2025, that because of loneliness primarily, but the areas of gray divorce, gray bankruptcy, gray suicide, and gray addiction, those things are exploding. So how do we, as God's community, address those issues and find the people that need our help, be able to bring together people so that they're aware of what it is that's coming next, and help people to be able to plan with God's leading in God's kingdom and in God's plan with the teachings of Jesus to be able to make 2025 a really, really valuable year.
Oh, it's funny, Bruce, is you've said a couple times in the last couple of podcasts that we've run into a lot of grumpy people who are retirement age, and which is something that really, maybe you could find it in the first or second chapter of Hesitations, but for the most part, the Bible doesn't say it's okay for people to be grumpy. Yeah, that was a joke, by the way. If anybody listening trying to look for that chapter, that book doesn't exist, because no way we should be grumpy. We have everything in the world to be happy about, because our lives are short-lived on this planet to prepare us for an eternity with our Heavenly Father. And Bruce, when we focus on doing positive things, when we focus on investing our lives in other people, it brings positive changes to our life too, doesn't it?
When you look down, all you see are your feet. When you look out, you see the feet of the people that Jesus cares about.
Man. But Bruce...
And you can't look up and out and be grumpy. Now, you can be kind of nasty sometimes, but you really can't be grumpy if you look up and out and then say, I am available. I am available. That makes such a difference.
I was going to say, some people are probably saying, but Bruce, seriously, inevitably in the new year, in 2025, just 2 days away, events are going to happen. They're going to interrupt our lives. And it's our response to those events that really shapes our mindset. It shapes our emotions, and sometimes it could shape our health. How do we make sure that we respond in a Christ-like fashion to those interruptions?
Well, those events, and that creates what we call a liminal period, a period of transition or change. And when we're in those periods of transition and change, and it may be between the stages in retirement or because of an event, And the event in, my life this past year was Judy becoming very, very ill. When we are in those liminal periods of change, how we approach them, as you just kind of outlined and introduced the question, is so very, very critical. Because if an event or a liminal period is not anticipated, or the foundation of how to deal with it isn't in place, then we become frustrated, we become angry, we have high anxiety, we become grumpy. Yet when we know that they are coming and we have God's tools to be able to address, to be able to use his wisdom in stepping into those and acting on them, that's when, in fact, those negative events can have positive results in our lives where we can learn more and do more. And so just remember that word liminal. When you're in a liminal period, what is the fruitfulness that God wants from you during that period of time? What has he made available to you for that period of time that'll give you strength, give you wisdom, give you insight, and in the midst of those events, actually bring you joy?
Let's give our listeners some ideas, Bruce, of things that they can do to live with a higher level of intentionality, no matter their situation, whether they're in the first stage of retirement, second stage of retirement, or the third stage of retirement. What are some ideas, Bruce, of things in 2025 where we can start to reform our retirement thinking? Give me a specific thing. Give me two specific things that you think people should consider doing.
One, you can read a book called Imagine Heaven. And most of us, while we anticipate eternity, we don't really have a clear picture of it. And book been around for quite a while, but it's called Imagine Heaven. So I'd read the book and reflect on it. Matter of fact, read it with your spouse. One of the points that the authors make is that our earth, when God created our earth, he said it was good. Good what? Because he modeled it after heaven. And so while heaven will be so much more glorious, what we see and experience here on earth can give us a beginning insight into what heaven will be like. And so to be able to, so one specific thing we can do is to increase our knowledge, anticipation, and vision of what eternity will look, what the future will really look like.
And to I got to interrupt there, because most people think of heaven and they think, okay, I just got to get there. But to think about every day between now and the day you enter heaven, God is preparing you for what you will be doing when you are in heaven. That the relationship you're building, the things that you're doing, the skills that you have, those experiences, those carry forward in your soul. And so God is preparing you. Don't just think, well, all I got to do is get through these next 35 years and I'll finally get to heaven. No, don't waste those 35 years. God's got something for you in 2025 to prepare you for what you're going to spend an eternity doing. We're never done learning.
And so if we are still here, we have a purpose. Mm-hmm. And so to step into the second thing that I would suggest would be, if you haven't read Retirement Reformation, that kind of lays out some of the issues. But then Living the Fruitful Life talks about the solution. And so reading that book, and there are others, but reading that book and saying, how does that apply to me in 2025? How will that make a difference? And so gaining new knowledge. Secondly, is another specific step to take is to learn how to identify when others have a need. That sensitivity to what someone else is experiencing. God has put in us that innate capacity to be compassionate and to be understanding and to be loving. So often we just ignore that. And so in 2025, how do I listen to the needs of others and then be able to step forward and to make that difference is really, really key.
That's powerful.
Next, the last one that I would highlight now is prepare your legacy. What do you want your legacy to look like? Have you adequately prepared financially, in communication with your kids. Have a conversation with your kids about what's going to happen when you die. If you do that this year, you will it will make a tremendous difference in your relationship and the weight that it will lift off your shoulders. I don't think most of us who are in our senior years realize the weight that we carry around of what legacy is going to mean. And we either ignore it or we prepare for it in inappropriate ways, or we just simply don't understand what the options are. And so come together in community. Oh, one final thing. Find one small group. It could be a mentoring relationship with one person. Could be 3 guys that meet, once a month for breakfast. It could be leading a small group at church, but take something like Recreating Retirement and lead something this year where you have to put yourself into it for the benefit of others. What I found is that every time I am leading or guiding or helping to direct, I learn more than all the people that are learning along with me. So find something you can do specifically with another person or a group of people.
Great words from our founder, Bruce Bruinsma. We do encourage you. I encourage you personally. My choice of books, read Bruce's book, Retirement Reformation, and read my book, I Retire for Him. Both of them look at a different perspective on retirement, but both give a lot of practical ways you can live that retirement out in action on a day-to-day basis. Bruce and I both wish you a happy new year, that 2025 would be a year where your life is never the same again, that God will transform your thinking, and that you'll change the very way you think and interact with those around you, that you'll love your neighbors more than you'll love yourself, and that your family will become a priority that you'll work on building up and building out each and every day, even with those that you adopt into your family, that you'll find purpose in serving others, and that in 2025, the church can come alive to be the church that this country needs. You've been listening to I Retire for Him, the mouthpiece of and the voice of the Retirement Reformation. And, as it's the last podcast of 2024, Bruce and I just want to ask you and invite you to join us in journeying from retirement to reformation, so we can all say together, I retire for Him.
I retire for Him.
Thanks for listening to I Retire for Him with your hosts Jim and Martha Brangenberg and Retirement Reformation founder Bruce Bruinsma. I Retire for Him is the mouthpiece of the Retirement Reformation. Most Christians tend to follow the world's pattern of rest and self-pampering during retirement. However, in your retirement, you can be focused on God's unique call to love, serve, and help others. This can be your best season of life if you take advantage of a life's worth of knowledge and experience and combine it with a greater freedom of time and money and invest it all in the generations both preceding and following you. The Retirement Reformation is encouraging Christians to find and follow God's call in all seasons and aspects of life, especially in retirement. Take time to sign the manifesto at retirementreformation.org and explore the wealth of resources available on our site. Join this movement of God and journey from retirement to reformation so you can say, I retire for Him. Go to retirementreformation.org.